Thinking about going vegan, but worried it's too challenging? I've been thriving on a vegan diet for 5 years, and I'm here to share 12 game-changing hacks that make it surprisingly easy. In this video, I'll reveal the secrets to enjoying a plant-based lifestyle without missing out. Now, this first hack might be one of the most important ones on this list. One of the biggest fears I had when I was going vegan was that I was gonna feel hungry, tired, I wasn't gonna get enough protein or iron. Wouldn't it be amazing if there was one single food that could solve all this? And don't say meat. Well, it's actually funny, because meat would help with a lot of those symptoms, but there is a vegan replacement. And the irony is that most people don't think to add it into their diet once they go meat-free. The reality is that this vegan alternative is crucial to fill in the gaps meat leaves, because it has protein and iron, but it also has something that meat doesn't have: fiber. The food I'm talking about are legumes. They're your chickpeas, beans, and lentils. I cannot stress enough how critical these are to a plant-based diet. It would be like running a marathon without shoes. You're making it harder on yourself and missing the support you need to go the distance. And I'm not surprised at all that people don't think of adding these to their diet. In the US, only 4% of the population gets the minimum requirement of beans in their diet. And let's be real, it's probably the Mexicans. But that's exactly why that people say that eating beans makes their tummies feel weird. We eat so little beans that our bodies aren't ready to digest them, so add them slowly to your diet so your body adjusts. I didn't follow that advice at all, so when I started eating a lot of beans, it was painful. But nowadays, I only cry for 20 minutes. The list of ways to consume legumes is endless. Creamy hummus spreads, bean dips, warm chickpea bowls, hearty lentil curries, black bean burgers. These dishes are not only nutritious, but for the most part require minimal effort, so make sure you're eating legumes. Now, let's be honest. The biggest reason I didn't eat beans is because cooking them from dried takes hours. And canned beans, well, aren't canned foods bad for you? If you think that too, then this next point is for you. Most people don't have all the time it takes to soak beans and cook them. So what do? Not have one of the most important foods of a vegan diet? Well, no. You reach for the canned beans. Now you might be thinking, hold up, canned beans? Aren't those full of preservatives that'll kill you? But it turns out when it comes to beans, that's not true at all. Canned beans are basically just as healthy as the dried versions. The only real difference is the salt content, so watch out for that. Well, that's what I would tell you if I were a doctor. I like getting them with salt. And nowadays, you don't even need a can opener at all. Most you can just peel right off. Except for cans from Trader Joe's for some reason. What the f***? Anyways, 99% of the time, I'm eating canned beans or any other legume, and they're already cooked, making meals even faster to prepare than with meat. They're delicious and they're dirt cheap. So don't be afraid of canned beans and other legumes. So this next hack is so powerful that with it, you can easily 3x, 4x, 5x the amount of different flavors and foods that you eat, and it makes everything so much more convenient. Unfortunately, most people go years without realizing how much this can change their vegan experience. The hack is investing in at least one of 3 kitchen appliances, all under $100, and they'll have you whipping up gourmet meals in no time. The first one of these is a blender. Honestly, I feel like having one of these in the kitchen is like a cheat code for making incredible food. So everyone knows blenders give you access to smoothies and smoothie bowls. I mean, I remember even back in college, I had my little NutriBullet and I'd make myself these disgusting spinach smoothies. Yeah, those were disgusting. But when I became vegan and I started to learn how to cook, I realized you can use these to make all types of creamy sauces to level up your pastas or bowls. You can use them to blend soups to make them creamier. You can use them to blend chickpeas to make yourself hummus, or beans to make your own refried beans. You can even sometimes use them as a stand-in for food processors to make batters for different baking recipes. But whatever you do not put potatoes in there. That's the one food that doesn't go well in the blender. The next appliance is the Instant Pot. At my old job, these used to fly off the shelves, but they've grown a bit out of fashion. That being said, they're still enormously valuable, especially for vegans in the kitchen. There are thousands of recipes out there online to make curries, bowls, stews, just about anything you want in the Instant Pot. And most of the time, it's just throwing a bunch of stuff in and walking away until it's done. On top of that, an Instant Pot will probably pay for itself if you use it to cook any type of bean from dried. If you've ever bought dried beans, you know you have to soak them for hours, sometimes overnight, and then you have to cook them. With the Instant Pot, you can skip those steps entirely. You throw the dried beans in, and most of the time you can just walk away and it'll be done in an hour. And since dried beans are even cheaper than canned beans, this way you'll save tons of money. Not only that, this way beans usually come out tastier and you can make them in huge batches, so you save yourself a lot of time too. Now, the last item on this list is an air fryer. These I feel like are even less cool now, and they're definitely not as versatile as blenders and Instant Pots. However, I'd argue that there are a few foods that they do so well that it's actually by far the tastiest way to prepare those foods. If you only use an air fryer for these foods, it would be worth it. And you don't even need oil, so if you're like me and you prefer to keep oil consumption down, it's great. In my experience, the foods an air fryer does really well are potatoes, cauliflower, broccoli, and tofu, which is amazing because these are all incredibly healthy foods. Since I got an air fryer, my consumption of broccoli and cauliflower has exploded. And I'm constantly using it to make these little fried potatoes. You can look up recipes, of course, but even just coating anything in some nutritional yeast and soy sauce and throwing it in the air fryer will make it taste good. Some people even swear that air fryer tofu is the best tofu you'll ever have. And to be honest, I can see myself agreeing with that. So invest in at least a blender, an Instant Pot, or an air fryer. You'll be making food that's so much tastier in no time. And that leads me to my next point about how to make your vegan food taste so good your non-vegan friends will say, "Oh God, it's so good." So one of the biggest fears I hear about vegan food is that it's gonna be boring, or worse, that it's flavorless. But I actually met one vegan who had a really strong opinion about this.
In fact, actually, I realised why KFC smells how it does, or Burger King, or Nando's. It's the season of the meat. Herbs and spices. Chicken doesn't taste like that. Meat doesn't taste like that. Sausages don't. It's all seasoning. Season your beans.
Man, he's completely right. Herbs and spices are a huge component to flavor, and since going vegan, I started using them more and more. Cinnamon, turmeric, basil, cilantro, ginger. But there's one thing people don't know about herbs and spices, and it's gonna change the way that you look at them forever. Not only are herbs and spices key components for adding flavor to your dishes, but they're also loaded with antioxidants. In MD Michael Greger's book, How Not to Die, he describes how a dish of whole wheat pasta, marinara sauce, and broccoli florets has 150 units of antioxidants. But adding a spoonful of dried oregano could double that to 300 units. Some spices like turmeric have even been suggested to have anti-cancer effects, with some studies observing its ability to potentially prevent DNA mutations and others suggesting it can destroy cancer cells. So that's crazy. So add herbs and spices to your dishes. They pack as much flavor as they do nutrition. I often hear over and over again that when people quit veganism, it's because they were missing one nutrient, and it's not protein or B12.
Was vegan for a very long time, and I've had to introduce fish and omegas into my life.
Right. It's omega-3. But what people don't realize is that there are actually great sources of omega-3 from plants. And when you find those sources, they open up your culinary world. The best plant sources of omega-3 are chia seeds and flax seeds. So these two are similar in a lot of ways. They're easy to add to a smoothie or oatmeal, and they both have binding properties, which for us non-science people basically means they make great egg replacements in baking recipes. Just gotta mix them with some water. Flax seeds in particular are so powerful that one study suggested it has the potential to reduce tumor growth in patients with breast cancer. Just make sure if you consume them, you eat them in their ground form because our bodies don't really digest them in their whole form. So try to include chia or flax seeds in your diet every day. Some of my favorite childhood memories are going to Olive Garden.
At Olive Garden.
And going to town on the rich, creamy pastas. And when I went vegan, everyone kept saying, oh, just eat whole grains, nuts, and seeds. And all I was thinking was, that sounds pretty dry. But over the years, as a vegan, I found the creamiest sauces, richest ice creams, and so you might be thinking, well, hold on, how the hell did you do that without any dairy? Truth is, I just bit the bullet and had some dairy, okay? Did you see those pastas? Ha, kidding. There's so many ways to make vegan dishes creamy, and you aren't doomed to eating dry salads for the rest of your life. But there are two that I want to focus on today. The first one is packed full of healthy fats, protein, and it's a huge source of calcium, and millions of people eat it every day without even realizing it. Hell, there's a high likelihood you've eaten this loads of times, but I can almost guarantee you that when I say what it is, you're gonna say, what's that? Well, it's tahini, which is essentially the peanut butter of sesame seeds. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, I definitely don't eat that. Oh, that's weird. I didn't realize you weren't eating hummus. That's right. Tahini is the second key ingredient of hummus alongside the mighty chickpea. Tahini has easily become one of my favorite foods I've discovered since going vegan. It adds an earthy, creamy flavor to anything, and it goes amazingly well with anything sweet. I would drizzle it on smoothie bowls, and the combination of flavors is out of this world. And since it's already a cream essentially, you can just mix it with lemon, garlic powder, and now you have a base for any sauce. You don't even need a blender. So f that last tip. Just kidding. But anyways, because of that, you can use it to add creaminess to anything. I don't think it tastes very good on its own, but combined with other ingredients is where it really shines. Now, the other underrated creamifier, what is this, wicked?
I mean, isn't that place somewhat illegal? Scandalocious.
Of vegan foods packs a huge amount of protein, and it's also got calcium. This food is tofu, but not just any tofu. Soft or silken tofu, which is a special kind that's almost like a cream. And remember, eating tofu has been found to be good for you, so use it as a base for a high-protein pasta sauce, for example. You can even use it to make high-protein desserts like mousses and cakes. One time, I even blended it with frozen berries to make a little high-protein blueberry yogurt. So use tahini and soft tofu to add creaminess to your dishes, as well as a ton of nutrition. So one of the most unexpected things that happened to me when I went vegan was that I started knowing all these random nutrition facts. Like vitamin E is from almonds, broccoli is a great source of calcium, and fruits don't really have that much fiber. And that'll happen to you too, if you use an app called Chronometer. This is an app where you can track all sorts of different foods and see how they break down when it comes to carbs, protein, and fats. But what makes this app stand out from other apps is that it also breaks down the micronutrients. So if you spend a few days tracking your foods, doesn't even have to be exact, you can get an idea of where you might have nutrition gaps. And slowly you start learning what foods have what. For example, I had a friend who tracked her food for a few days and realized she wasn't getting enough iron. So she changed her diet to start eating more iron-rich foods, and she solved that problem for herself. You think I was sponsored by this app, by the way that I'm talking about it, but honestly, it's just a really important app for anyone trying to make sure they're getting all their key nutrients in. So save yourself some of that anxiety and make sure you're using Chronometer at least at the start. Eventually, you'll be a nutrient whiz in the grocery store. If Chronometer's in the Hall of Fame of apps for vegans, so is this next one, especially if you like traveling. So if you go to Mexico City, for example, and you look up what the travel bloggers are recommending for vegans, it's all garbage. But when I lived there, I was able to find some of the best vegan food I've ever had. So how did I find these amazing places? Was it thanks to Bumble? Yes. But also an app called Happy Cow. This is an app that shows you any place around you that's either a vegan place, a vegetarian place, or even if it has vegan options. I'm also not sponsored by these guys, by the way. But it's even got a leg up on Google Maps, because Google Maps will give you ratings, yeah, but how good are the vegan options? Like, what if it's just a tomato salad? This has happened to me before, by the way. Happy Cow's ratings are generally based on people looking for vegan and vegetarian options, so it's generally a pretty reliable source of information for plant-based food. So download Happy Cow. You won't regret it. Now, will you be shocked to hear that being vegan has expanded the different types of foods and flavors that I eat? I remember before, my parents would want to go to like the Middle Eastern food store, and I'd be like, oh, why? H-E-B has everything we need. It wasn't until going vegan that I realized non-traditional grocery stores are a goldmine for delicious food I'd never tried before. You'll find all sorts of foods that you won't find in your local grocery stores, like new grains, new beans, new spices, and what's funny is that the stores are usually really vegan friendly. I feel like a kid in a candy store whenever I'm in one. But apart from that, even the organic stores or specialty stores tend to have a ton of more specialized vegan products. Think your meat alternatives or specialty pastas, vegan chocolate chips. So if you're trying out more vegan food and you've got any of these around you, you'll be in for a massive treat. Speaking of specialty stores, these are a great place where you can pick up high protein pasta, which has even started catching the attention of bodybuilders. These high protein pastas aren't mixed with protein powder or anything, but instead of using wheat, they use legumes. You can find chickpea pasta, lentil pasta, even black bean pasta. These pastas are such an easy way to boost your protein intake, boost your fiber intake. Basically all the amazing benefits you get from legumes, you get from these pastas as well. So it's a no-brainer to start adding these into your pasta rotation. The next hack is one that completely changed the way that I viewed certain kinds of food. If you're like me, you love sweet foods. I can't get enough of them. But I'd always feel a bit guilty after digging into a huge cake or a brownie. But when I went vegan, I started noticing a recurring trend in a lot of recipes that I would find. They were able to sweeten their recipes without sugar and do it in a more health-promoting way. They were using fruits to sweeten their dishes. Two in particular. Now, this is sort of like the herbs and spices thing. Not only does using these fruits make your food more delicious, but you're also still eating fruits and getting all the nutrients and fiber from them. So the first fruit you should use to sweeten your meals are bananas. They work incredibly well in any smoothie, and if you freeze them, they last longer and will add extra thickness to a smoothie bowl. And of course, they work great as a sweetener in baking recipes. I often use them when I make pancakes. The next food is a bit more interesting, and it's also become one of my favorite foods that I started eating more of since going vegan: dates. They also work well where bananas work, but because they're smaller, they can be snuck into more things. What do I mean? Well, if you're a really good cook, you probably know that sometimes adding sweetness to an otherwise savory recipe can add more depth to the flavor. By the way, I'm not a professional cook, I just remember hearing Rainbow Plant Life saying that. But she's right. Sneaking a date into a savory sauce really takes the flavor to the next level. So next time you're trying to sweeten something, see if bananas and dates will do the trick. And don't forget to pit your dates against each other. Just kidding. It means get the seeds out. All right, so this next hack is a bit controversial, and I may never be allowed back into Italy after I say it. You'll understand why in a minute. So remember how I was saying you could use soft tofu and tahini to add creaminess to dishes? Well, there's actually one way that's even easier than both of those. With this next hack, you can add incredible flavor, texture, and creaminess to any pasta dish in an instant. And nowadays, you can find what you need for this hack in almost any grocery store. So the secret is, you use hummus as the pasta sauce. I know, some of y'all might have just reeled from that, but trust me, with a little bit of pasta water, mix the hummus in, and you just made yourself the easiest 10 out of 10 pasta sauce. Throw in a little bit of spinach and bam, you just made yourself a simple and pretty nutritionally impressive pasta. So go out there, buy some hummus, not Sabra. That brand sucks. And make yourself some of the easiest and best pasta you've ever had. Mamma mia, Antonella's gonna kill me for that one. But I do wanna mention something else. Even if you follow all these hacks, you might still run into some challenges when eating a plant-based diet. For example, even long-term vegans sometimes struggle with protein or get bored of eating the same few sources. So check out this video where I reveal 10 vegan protein sources that are even better than eggs.